Good morning, everyone. PT on Ice, Fitness Athlete Friday. Thanks for tuning in. If you're downloading the podcast now, thanks for tuning in. If you're jumping on live, I'm actually a minute early, which is unlike me, but we're going to run with it anyways. I'm pulling kind of an Allen edition here, going remote from the vehicle. I'm at the gym, but there's a lot going on at the gym today. I've got construction crews showing up. We've got, if you can see, we've got dumpsters outside, and we've got a lot of moving parts today. And so for a little quiet space, I wanted to jump out in the truck and just rap a little bit. Wanted to kind of share a little experience that we had last week, and just kind of my general thoughts leaving it, and kind of what I hope to what would be really cool if I was still in school, and what would be really cool if other institutions and universities could find a way to do something similar. So last week, a faculty member from my PT department program, the University of Michigan in Flint, reached out. Actually, this is going back a number of weeks, but we did it last week, of doing a lecture lab combo on behalf of movement assessment and evaluation for the CrossFit athlete. So we kind of like an introductory CrossFit course, if you will, for PT students in their second year in the program, as part of their TheraX class, which was awesome, right? Because in our TheraX class, I was really looking forward to, that one lab where we would, go down to the gym, or if we would really get the barbells out and really starting to break out that analysis, and never quite had time for that. And I totally understand the position that academic programs are in trying to fit everything in under that 3-year curriculum, get the solid clinical education, fit everything in that the PT exam is going to test on. And having room for that it's very, very hard. So Dr. Bean reached out and was like, hey, I think we could do one lecture lab combo where we break down some movements found similarly with CrossFit and help our students kind of get an idea, a better analysis of these movements. And that's exactly what we did. Came in for a lecture. It was like an hour and a half lecture where we kind of shell out some of the basics. What are we talking about here? What are some basic principles in exam? What are some basic points of performance with the squat and with the deadlift? That was our focus for the day. And then we carried them on over to our gym. So they all shuttled over, kind of a field trip, if you will, over here to my CrossFit gym. And for 2 different labs, about 2.5 hours apiece, we were able to take groups of students and break down the squat, go through a bunch of squat correctives, have everyone get underneath the barbell and have them all move the barbell that way, and then have little teams to be able to examine and evaluate alongside of them, and then break down the deadlift associated with that. Then the next part 2, is breaking down the deadlift. What's a correct start position? What are the points of performance that we're actually looking for in a conventional deadlift? How should it be executed? When do we see faults? How do we pick up on those? And what do we do about those, right? When we started the lab or the lecture content, I surveyed the room and said, who is comfortable here examining and evaluating someone's back squat? Who here feels really good about their ability to say, yep, back squat in front of me, and I can tell you exactly what we need to do and what we need to get away from. And only 1 or 2 hands shot up in a room of 61 students, right? So that's telling to me, especially because we know the statistics on the fitness athlete, the CrossFit, the weightlifting, the USAW, all of these sports and all of these markets are growing at an exponential rate, and we're graduating a bunch of movement experts that aren't familiar at all with this type of work, aren't familiar at all saying this is a foundational squat pattern under load. This is what we're okay with doing. This is what we want to avoid doing, etc. And the same goes for the deadlift. And what we talk about in our courses, in the Fitness Athlete Live course, is that while this is so specialized towards, the CrossFit, the fitness athlete, the functional bodybuilder, all these other sports and subsets of recreational activity, it doesn't just stop there, because our 78-year-old grandma needs to know how to create a neutral spine and lift something heavy up off the floor to maintain their independence, right? And so this goes across many more domains than just working with that functional fitness athlete, if you will. So we need to have these movement experts that are coming out of PT school have to have some working knowledge, some basic premise of the squat and the deadlift. Man, if we could get those 2 things dialed in, if we could have PT students graduating with a really comfortable level of competency surrounding how do we evaluate the back squat, What are we looking for with a stance position? Where do we want the knees to track? Where do we want the neutral spine to be at? Like how do we brace and cue on the squat and things of that nature? And the same with the deadlift. We would be making such a better movement in what everyone is preaching, which is exercise, exercise, exercise. I keep hearing that. Exercise above everything else. Exercise is the greatest intervention. But we need to be very, very comfortable with exercise. We need to be so comfortable that the people who consider exercise their sport come to us for advice about their exercise. Like that's how good with exercise we need to be. If that's going to be our number one intervention. And so I get it. I get that we're strapped for time. I get that we're behind the eight ball with what PT school is requiring us and what the exam is requiring us to get. But I really wanted to give a hat tip to Dr. Bean, who was like, listen, we can sacrifice one lecture lab day. We can partition out this one little component because I find it to be really crucial and I find it to be really valuable for students to be able to get. So hat tip to him for making that happen. Hat tip to all the students from U of M Flint who were super engaged the entire day. I mean, we had 60 students through 2 different labs who were really dialed in with trying to evaluate and correct the squat pattern and evaluate and correct the deadlift pattern. And on top of it all, we got to finish the day off with a workout for everybody. So not only did we get understanding and knowledge around the back squat and the deadlift and everything of that sort, but we were also able to experience some movement, some exercise, some physical activity in real time. We were able to put some of the pieces together and have all these PT students get together and what it feels like to do a traditional CrossFit style workout, if you will, which was super enlightening in its own right. I think the more folks that we can have experienced this type of training, the better off we'll be. The more folks that we can have like, hey, let's understand what the back squat is like. Let's understand what the deadlift is like. And then let's understand what this form of training is like under states of fatigue, under states of conditioning, things of that nature, will really help to change the narrative going forward, which is not that this sport causes injury, which is not that you shouldn't do CrossFit, which is not all these things. Those beliefs are brewed out of our own lack of knowledge, our own lack of competency around the topic, right? Rather, we need to have avenues to getting in, understanding a little bit more about it, experiencing it a little bit ourselves, and then being able to have a perspective on it at that point, right? I urge a lot of you, if you have some role, if you have some connection with your local university, a PT school, if you're in the academic environment of some sort, maybe go back to the drawing board and see how is it that we can work in even a 2-hour lab session. Maybe it's an optional lab. That's better than nothing. What can we do to work in some opportunity for our students who are coming to PT school to have a moment where they can pause and say, this is a foundational squat pattern, this is a foundational deadlift pattern, here's what we're going to do for the next 2 hours to get you guys really, really comfortable with both of these lifts. Assessment, evaluation, what's a good start position, what's a good finish position, etc. So that when they go out in clinical rotations and they have that one athlete that shows up on their caseload who's a really high level, high functioning athlete who's training really hard and who wants them to evaluate their back squat for them, that they've got some working material to be able to help them out with that. So that's what I'm really excited about. So talking with Dr. Bean at the University of Michigan, I'm hopeful that we can roll this out for every PT class that's coming down the pipeline, that we at least have one lab where we get together and we get in the CrossFit gym and we break down these movements. I told the class, I'm like, look, the goal is that every graduating class after ours or yours or whatever has a little bit more knowledge in their pocket to serve people better than we did, right? I see Zach watching now. Zach was my mentor for 10 weeks down in Carolina. And that was his. He's like, dude, he's like, you're already better than I was as a student. I want you to be at my level now so that the potential for you is so much higher, right? That's what we should be wanting for every graduating class behind us. What can we do to make sure the next wave of PTs is better than our wave of PTs? And if we continue to have that mindset of like, what knowledge can I give? What tools, what resources can I open my doors for 2 hours, bring some PT students in, and just kind of pass along a little bit of information to help move that needle forward, then we can really accomplish the mission, which is not only helping people fight musculoskeletal disease, but also fighting the chronic disease and getting people truly healthier and pushing this profession forward, right? So I'm excited about what we can do in the next couple of years with a little community partnership with University of Michigan. I just wanted to hat tip them this morning, hat tip all the students who are tuning in. I know we kind of turned them on to some PT on Ice, a lot of them, so hopefully they're downloading and listening to these shows on their way to school or whatever. If they're in the books, they got time for a 10 or 15 minute podcast. If you have any interest in doing this in your respective areas, I encourage you to reach out. I'd be happy to share some information, some ideas, some places to get you guys started. If you're looking to kind of work with some PT students or trying to break down some movements like this. This is what we do in our live course. We spend 2 full days breaking down these movements. So this is what we're super passionate about, and we want to share this in as many different directions as we can. So a shout out to the PT students for coming and getting after it with the squat and the deadlift. The next generation who is actually assessing movement in PT school. The thing I wish that we were going to do the whole time, and I never quite saw it come to fruition. We're seeing it come in some of the later years. So hat tip to them. Hat tip to Dr. Bean for setting all this up. And hopefully we see more and more universities go into a model similar to this, where they can help their students break down some movements and be effective in this environment. With that being said, I've got contractors showing up right now. They're pulling in. They're getting to work. I need to be in there helping them out. And then I got a 9 o'clock class that's going to start up next. So a busy morning. I hope you guys are as excited about this Friday as I am. Just for a course update, guys, there's a bunch of stuff happening in late September, early October. We have a busy fourth quarter on tap, which we're all over the country. So if you're interested in a cervical spine, a lumbar spine management course, a thrust manipulation course, the fitness athlete course, we're going down to Texas next month. We'll be in Nashville in November. We've just got so much going on. So please check out the website. It's recently updated, so you may see some really cool stuff on there that you didn't know was there before. Check out the website for any courses around your area, and we hope to see you guys out on the road. That's where we can really have some fun conversations. So thanks for tuning in this morning. Thanks for checking out the podcast. Share this one with someone that you want to break down some movement and see if we can't get the ball rolling a little bit. So guys, have an awesome Friday. We'll see you back Monday morning. Go kick butt in the clinic today. We'll see you.